Since the emergence of cinema itself, filmmakers have used the open road as a powerful metaphor. The road movie is more than just a journey. It is a genre deeply rooted in rebellion, social protest, and the search for liberation. It captures characters who travel not only across landscapes, but also across the rigid boundaries of the social order. Easy Rider is perhaps the quintessential example to this argument. Released during the political turbulence of the late 1960s, it portrays two bikers embarking on a journey towards personal freedom, only to be violently punished by the forces of conservatism. Their deaths are not random, but symbolic to the political environment of the time, where society cannot tolerate their difference. The 1960s was a decade defined by upset and turbulence. The road movie mirrored this turmoil, transforming the act of travelling into an act of resistance. Lederman emphasises that the driving force propelling most road movies, in other words, is an embrace of the journey as a means of cultural critique. The American Dream, first popularised by James Truslow Adams in his 1931 book The Epic of America, showed hope and prosperity to the everyday American through decades of political and social unrest. However, characters in these films often rejected the American dream and instead forged their own unstable paths that often ended in tragedy, but not before exposing the social hypocrisies. Before Easy Rider, Bonnie and Clyde had already begun rewriting the rules of the social norms. Though technically a crime film, it shares the road movie's DNA, where two outsiders are seen to flee across the American South, embodying rebellion against the economic despair of the Great Depression and symbolically against contemporary 1960s authority. Their journey is romanticised, yet ultimately doomed, reflecting the road movie's frequent assertion that rebellion comes with a cost. Later, in the 1990s, Ridley Scott's Thelma and Louise began to reshape the idea of a road movie, turning against the almost masculine idea of breaking rules and being free, and shining a light through more of a feminist lens. The film follows two women, Thelma, a repressed housewife, and Louise, an independent waitress, who embark on a weekend road trip to escape their unsatisfying lives. As they evade law enforcement, the two women forge a deep bond, breaking away from the patriarchal structures that have controlled their lives. By rejecting the domestic confinement typically associated to women at the time, the film holds strong as a means of rebellion and protest, protesting and confronting male violence head-on. Their drive across the American landscape is symbolic for their fight for autonomy, finally and deservedly having a taste of freedom from the norms where a political system was still categorically stacked against them. In more recent times, Queen and Slim shone a new light to the road movie genre. A film made during the peak times of the Black Lives Matter protest, it grounds itself in real-world issues that happen at the same time that the film is set at. The film follows our two main protagonists, Queen and Slim, who go on a journey across the American landscapes in a flee after killing a police officer in self-defense. Their journey through America's radicalized landscape is an act of survival, but also a larger, painful protest against systemic racism. Their journey mirrors the traditional road movie genre, but now with a higher sense of urgency and danger. Director Martusz uses this formula to transform the American highway into both a sanctuary and a battleground, making clear the nation's deep systemic racial divide. In Queen and Slim, the protest scene is used as a pivotal moment to transcend the theme of rebellion and protest. In this scene, a young black boy who idolises both Queen and Slim for their escape, admiring them almost as a cult hero, joins a protest where in the heat of the moment tragically shoots and kills a black police officer. This scene complicates the idea of rebellion, showing how often the symbols of protest can be misinterpreted or radicalised, creating a sense of moral ambiguity. However, it can also reinforce how Queen and Slim's journey, like many road movies, inspires political unrest, much like Easy Rider did during the 1960s. Their journey holds power and message, fighting against discrimination and police brutality that happens far too often within America. Their journey, shown as peaceful, can often be radicalised for people wanting vengeance for their suffering, almost seen as an eye for an eye. Similarly, in Easy Rider, the film opens with characters Wyatt and Billy making a large drug deal where they stuff their cash into their gas tanks of their motorbikes and ride off into the American landscape. This scene immediately sets the tone of defiance, where the characters reject the conventional work, law and materialism. Their escape from the city into the open road marks the beginning of the film to a journey of freedom and rebellion, now seen as one of the most noticeable examples of a road movie. As Lederman comments, the film's infamous ending dramatizes the fundamental core impulse of the road movie, rebellion against conservative social norms. In all of these films, the destination is secondary to the journey itself. The physical act of moving becomes a statement, a refusal to accept the social limitations and norms. As Lederman notices, the road movie's overt concern with rebellion, social criticism, and liberating thrills derives from the modernist sensibility. In a world increasingly structured by control and surveillance, the open road represents a lasting feeling of escapism and personal freedom. Yet, these films are not naive. They recognise that true liberation is precarious, perhaps impossible within a system built on equality and repression. Ultimately, road movies present themselves not as a triumphant success, but as a necessary and beautiful act of resistance. Even if that act ends in death, the road movie genre continues to serve as a cinematic protest against the status quo. From all of these films, their finale shares a similar plot, often faced with death or repression. However, their true message lies in their journey along the way, not the ending of it. Their journey carves out space for freedom, inclusivity, and above all else, defiance above the systemic rules of society.